Hey, what's up, guys and gals? Chris with the BODDAMN channel, coming to you live from the inside of my house. Anyway, sorry, awkward beginnings, but haven't done a live show on BODDAMN in a while, and I'm also pivoting as well with another company called Radical Life, which we're building right now. So yeah, this is brought to you by BODDAMN and Radical Life. So welcome to the show, and this is just an open Q&A kind of show, and I'm gonna talk about main kind of pitfalls. Well, I'll give you the current kind of status of how I have kind of been attacking my goals in 2024, which is kind of cool. And then we're going to go into some common pitfalls that people do in their fitness journey, or even at the gym, for example, that just sabotage their fitness completely. And then we'll just close it out. So if at any point you decide that you got a question or something like that, then you can always put that over here. If you're watching this live, there should be like a red box that says live. And if you see it, then you can put a question in the chat. Okay. You can even say hello right now. You can say where you're tuning in from. That would be cool. Probably would get bigger turnout if I threw this thing on Instagram, but to be quite honest, I do want to put a little bit more effort into YouTube this year on both this channel and the Radical Life channel, which we are building out right now. And it would just be, fun to do more live shows. So the cool thing about live shows is they stay here. If I decided that it's good content, it should stay, then I can stay and become as a video forever. It's really cool. And I like that. And it can attract more people to the channel eventually down the road. So now let's talk about my current stuff right now with fitness and like lifestyle and everything. I am 45 years old. That's right. I'm about 6 foot tall. I weigh in on average between about 199 and 202 pounds, which is a stark difference from where I was 2.5 or 3 months ago when I was wrapping up the winter bulk, and at the top of my bulk, I think I came in at 217 or something like that. And that's a lot for me. It really is. The most I've ever weighed in my entire life was 226 pounds back in college, or right after college was done. I was humongous. I was so big. So I was like 226 pounds at, I think, I don't even know how much body fat I was. I was going to say 13, but I think I was closer to like 10. Obviously, in your 20s or early 20s, just testosterone is like raging through the roof, and it's very easy to be lean, especially if you're working out 6 times a week, which I was doing cardio too. And so now I am back at normal kind of weights. And there are a couple things I've done to get, not a couple things, a lot of things I do to get there. But one of the things I want to talk about on this show is some of the things that have worked, right, in 2024. So if you paint a picture of me with like 15 more pounds on me, or possibly even close to 20, that's where I was 2.5 to 3 months ago. Now, that's only, if you look at it, 12 to maybe 14 weeks, right, ago. And I've come down somewhere between 15 and 20 pounds-ish, something like that. It's pretty good, Anytime that there's a weight loss kind of journey involved, I always preach that 1 to 1.5 a week is good. And I think in order to understand a weight loss journey, we have to understand the story first. It's like, why did I bulk in the first place? Well, when I was 45 last year, but like at 45, I was like, I hadn't done a proper bulk in a while, and I wanted to put on some more muscle because at the age that I'm at, it's a little bit harder to put on muscle per year. And muscle is really important. Muscle is vitality. Muscle is life force. It fights off diseases. It, helps you move around with great ease and no pain. And it gives you strength, right? Which is cool because there's some activities every day that involve strength, like taking out all the bags that are, from your grocery store in one trip from your car back to your house. Like that's that's strength right there. No, I'm just kidding. But like for real, strength it's definitely not, it's a good thing to have. Now, do I want to look like a Olympic power lifter or a strongman? No, that's the ultimate strength. Cool. But I don't want to look like a rectangle or like a Minecraft character. I just don't care to look like that. And there's a certain part where there's a certain part of body mass where that's just too much for the heart to deal with, and I definitely think it's at 226, which I used to be at way back in the day. I think it's still there at 215, which I was at 3 months ago. And it's just too much. And it's not good for the heart in a longevity sense. So the heart, unlike other muscles of the body, it just doesn't grow. And it gets to like about the size of your fist. But if you ever notice, like when you gain weight or whatever, your fist kind of stays the same size. Everything else might get bigger, but your heart is just one of those muscles that it might adapt a little bit, but it won't grow in size like crazy amounts like you can grow muscle or thighs or calves or something like that. So I decided to do a bulk because I wanted to grab around 1 to 5 pounds of muscle on my body for summertime, which is now. And I do feel good, like now. But I also came to the time of the bulk where I was like, this is over. Like, this is kind of stupid. And I was just sick of just being strong. But then, I don't know, I wanted to be more movement friendly. So I got away from doing that and I got into a leaning phase, right? Which I did for 2.5 months, 3 months, something like that. The leaning phase is cool. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But then that got me to where I am now and I feel great. And now I'm at a point where it's like, I want to recomp a little bit, where I want to burn some fat and gain some more muscle. So I'm taking the composition of my body, perhaps even staying at the same weight. And we're just going to recomp. We're going to take some of that fat down. We're going to replace it with muscle. So the weights probably stay the same, but like the look will look different. So it's kind of cool. I like doing that kind of stuff. And I think that when you're in one of the greatest control you can, or the greatest control you can have in your life, is to be able to control your ups and downs, not emotionally, but like with your body. If you think about it, there's so much out there that's like a one-stop fix for, weight gain, which is like steroids, or weight loss, Ozempic, and to learn the art of doing that naturally is so important, because at the end of the day, naturally is more than likely going to reward you with longevity. So you have to understand that if you are surrounded by people that are doing some of these shortcut techniques, then you have to ask the question of like, why are they doing it? Like, what's going on? Like, what's the real reason they're doing it? Are they doing it for health reasons? Or are they doing it for vanity reasons? Are they doing it? And more often than not, you see it for vanity reasons, which it is what it is. And it's not that I don't blame them, but I can understand where that comes from. Look at everything that has graced your screen on your phone from the minute that you wake up. It's all vanity stuff. It's all keeping up with the Joneses. It's all like, you're not good enough. And like, these people are influencers and like they do this and they strongly believe in that. And if you do that, like, you look like this. And so I try to really pull away from that and go like, what's sustainable? What has worked in my life? Like, what is the right way to do it? And I honestly think that weight gain or weight loss, 1 to 1.5 pounds a week, is one of the answers right there. You never want to do it abruptly, So yeah, I can show the very first thing I did more than anything was start getting some really good sleep, like super good sleep. And then, paying attention to an enormously kind of high water intake. Not enormous. This is probably like what I needed to be taking. So that's around 1.5 gallons, or even almost 1.75 gallons a day. And that's important. That's important for a lot of reasons, but it's also important for, reducing cravings and all that kind of stuff. Because as you get into a bulk, for example, you start to eat foods that are, more salty, and they lead to other things. You're snacking a lot. And that, when you focus on the water intake first, then it kind of does fill up your stomach with at least, quarter water, half water. And some of those false signals of like, that I think I might be hungry was just you being dehydrated, for example. So that's one of the very first things I did, besides sleep really well. And then obviously I cleaned up my diet, like super cleaned it up. My bulk theoretically started when my parents came to town for Thanksgiving weekend. That's almost always when I start this like mini bulk kind of thing. Good to see Mr. Albert Lopez in the feed, by the way. Hello, good to see you. And then after that, it was just off to the races. You have fourth quarter, parties and company things and, all these great snacks and holiday foods and everything. And then it was New Year's. And then I was like, okay, for 2 more months, I'm going to stay in the bulk. And then after that, I'm coming out of it. And then one day I was just like, I'm just too big. The scale shows it. And it's time to like reverse this thing. I didn't do it suddenly. I did it slowly. And it's paid off. I feel really good, for 45 years old. Skin looks good. Everything looks good. Feel good. Sleep is like amazing. Got some organic muscle hydrator right here. Obviously, if you watch my stuff, and you know that I'm with this company. I work with them, work for them, work whatever for them. And this weekend we're going to be at bikinis and barbells or something like that. Squatch Fitness this Saturday. You can come find me there. Come find me at the CPG event at VUCA this Thursday as well. You can come try some organic muscle. And then we're going to be at some big Battle of the Gyms thing next weekend on Saturday. If you want to come see organic muscle and try some stuff, we will be there too. But yeah, so that's where I am now. I'm feeling good. And the workouts obviously changed too. They weren't such strength and mass building workouts. They had gone more towards hypertrophy and like preserving muscle and going into actual higher reps, which was good. It's a relief. And then that's what you do with like an absurd amount of calories in your body. Like it's for a guy, at least you use it, you use it, you just get big. But when you start cutting the calories back and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot harder to hit big lifts and stuff like that. So it's more easy to hit, like time under tension and reps that are in that 8 to 20 range, for example. So did I even take a sip of this thing? I don't even know if I did. Okay. So yeah, that's where we are now. Let's talk about some pitfalls in the gym, right? That most people are going to just absolutely suffer from. I think one of the biggest pitfalls, to be honest with you, I'll say right now, are headphones. I think headphones and gloves are big pitfalls. I think that they would really take you away from the experience of what lifting is all about and that mind-muscle connection. I think it can only detract from that, right? I mean, if you think about the mind-muscle connection, it's like you kind of want your actual hands to be on the actual grip or the actual bar. Like you need to feel that. You need to feel that metal. Now, once you put a rubber glove on or a suede lifting glove, then that connection has been kind of like diminished, right? It's kind of like grounding if you think about it. Grounding is the art of putting your feet to the earth, and you can sync with the earth energy and magnetic this or that. And it has been proven by science, and even with like electrical meter things, that it changes like your vibration when you do that. But the second you put shoes on, for example, then that goes away. So, and grounding is really good for obtaining great sleep, circadian rhythm stuff, optimum hormone stuff, stress reduction. There's just a lot of stuff that come with grounding. So if you can barefoot every day at some point, you should do it. Like it's very important to go to a field, grassy field, whatever, or go, barefooting on some rocks in the forest. Yeah, I'm starting to look at my life now and I'm like, maybe 10 or 15 years ago when I was like, oh, look, there are people hugging trees, like, oh, a bunch of hippies, maybe they're onto something, right? They're like literally hugging earth and things that come out from earth. And it's kind of interesting, you don't ever see them hugging. They're always hugging with like their bare arms and stuff. And maybe they're onto something, right? Okay. So yeah, pitfalls will definitely be, and then headphones completely take you away from like whatever is in your headphones. You're going to be focusing on that rather than focusing on your muscles and the contraction and the mind-muscle connection, which is so important. I'm just trying to give you guys like real tips here on how to really treat fitness seriously to where it becomes fun and you start seeing results. And there's nothing better than someone that sees results, whether it be mental or physical, if you think about it. But it's going to come with great practice. And sometimes people don't know what these pitfalls do to them and that they're even there. So knowing about pitfalls are really important. That reminds me, I do have with Radical Life a new guide that has 10 pitfalls that are sabotaging your fitness. And I'm going to put it right here into the actual feed. Go check it out. It's a free guide with 10 things that are kind of similar to what we're talking about here, but 10 more things on how you can improve your fitness by not sabotaging your stuff. There's a link right there. Go check it out. Free guide. Okay. What's another thing that has always plagued me when it comes down to like sabotaging my fitness goals? It's who you hang around, right? If you're hanging around somebody that's not quite up to your same, not really goals or whatever, but just the workout. If they're not just there for what you're there for, then that's absolutely sabotaging your fitness goals. Like we can agree on that, right? And if you have any questions, put it in the comment feed. Okay, so yeah, we can agree on that if you work out with certain people and they're always like talking about drama or, the dating life or this or that, it makes no sense. I mean, if you're in the gym, which has probably taken 10 to 30 minutes to get there, and then you do all this warming up, and then you get around somebody who's not super serious, and they're talking about all this stuff that's not gym related, and then you wonder months later why you're not getting the results that you want. I mean, it can't be more plain than that. Just look at what you're around. And oftentimes that will give you the solution, or you can solve said problem with just looking at your environment, right? I mean, it's the same reason as if you get around toxic people, you become toxic, right? You are the average of your 5 closest people that you put in your circle. So if all the people in your circle, let's say, as an example, are drinkers, then you're more than likely going to be a drinker. You know, if they're all partying, you're more than likely going to be partying. If they're all single and like rambunctious and going crazy, you're probably that too. So you are the average of the 5 closest people to you. So you have to pick those 5 closest people very, 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 very carefully. Not to mention, if you have a significant other, that is like the greatest decision you'll ever make in your entire life. Let's be honest. Like the person that you see day in and day out, they are probably living with you or whatever. You share animals with them, like all that kind of stuff. And, you know, you're making payments together towards whatever, a house, an apartment, whatever. That person is to say that decision of who that person is the most important decision that you'll probably make in your entire life. Because that will affect the energy of your lifestyle day in and day out. So something to think about. And it's the same with people that work out with you on your workouts. If you're really serious about like improving your lifestyle and doing great things, then the people around you have to be on that same path, or they have already achieved it and they're kind of helping you. They're like mentors, you know. It's okay to have a mentor as your best friend or in your circle of 5 friends. I don't think it's okay to have someone completely polar opposite than you on that kind of like realm. I don't think it's smart. I think it's definitely something that you could argue would sabotage things. So we have to always look at those things yearly, sometimes monthly, and every now and then it gets uncomfortable because sometimes those people can be family members, not believing in you, you know, downplaying your goals or what you really want to do in your life, what your heart says to you. It could be kind of anyone, but it hurts when it's someone like super close to you, or it could be a best friend that's just not turning around and not doing the best that they can do. And sometimes you have to make tough decisions, right? So, and then there's other things that make fitness goals really tough. I mean, dynamic cities are going to be one of those things too, because like it's much like it would be really easy for me to get my fitness goals done in a more nature like based city, for example. Let's say Southern Colorado somewhere, or Southern Utah, not so dynamic. You know, most stores closing at like 8 p.m. You know, there's some bars in town, but not a whole lot. But basically around 8 or 9 p.m., like most businesses shut down besides the Home Depot or maybe the Walmart. So like it's much easier to get on the right path for a lifestyle in those kind of cities. Now, a lot of us don't live in those kind of cities. And the one that I live in, called Austin, Texas, is one of the most dynamic cities of all time. Like it's insane. Like everyone's moving here. There's never a dull moment. There's always stuff to do. And that can be a problem. That can be a problem for circadian rhythms. That can be a problem for temptations and things that you shouldn't be doing. Like now, all of a sudden, you're doing these things. It could be a problem for dating. It could be a problem for so many different reasons. But a lot of those things that tempt you in the other direction of having a great lifestyle, a lot of those things are present in more dynamic cities as well. So you have to have that mental fortitude to prevail and go, okay, you know, like, here are all the temptations and here's what's probably going to happen, or, you know, here's what all my friends are doing. I just want to turn a new leaf and I don't want to do that anymore. So it's uncomfortable to make new friends, but I know I have to. And these are the kind of tough decisions that you're going to have to be making in a more dynamic city, because that just exists, whether it's Seattle or Miami or Austin or San Diego, or, you know, more dynamic of a city, the higher the temptation to like you not be on your goal, basically. So yeah, that's really important. The other thing there are a lot of important things, but I'm trying to think of things that are on the top of my head that can really help you guys and gals out. Another thing that would sabotage a fitness goal, like almost certainly, would be poor sleep. And poor sleep, you could crush the gym and, you know, you can do all the greatest things for a short period of time. If you get poor sleep, your body will nearly eat itself and injure itself like to the nth degree. So you do need to have good sleep because that's where all the repair is happening. I think it's important because in said dynamic city, or in just having your cell phone in your pocket and right in front of your face thousands of times a day, it's enough to really offset the circadian rhythm for your melatonin production not to kick in properly. And then now you're getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep when you should be getting somewhere between 7 and 9, more than likely if you are an active individual, right? The less active you are, I do believe, the less kind of sleep you might need. The more active that you are, and the more that you live into a dynamic city, the more food stressors that are in your body. I mean, God, there's so much repair and stuff that occurs when you sleep that the more you mess with yourself, I think the higher your sleep needs to be. Messing with yourself can absolutely be lifting weights too. Like, I mean, that's obviously causing micro amounts of muscle trauma. And with a proper diet and proper sleep, you rebuild in a more resilient state, right? Now, if you don't get that proper sleep, you rebuild, and then you're trying to attack another workout at the same intensity, and then you pull this, you pull that, you have sharp shooting pains, or you are making no gains on your workout sheet, and it's like very defeating. But remember, what we're talking about is just sabotaging your fitness goals, right? If you have a fitness goal, or any kind of goal, for example, whether it be a bar exam or a certification, the reason why people ace those things or come out, with high honors or something like that is because they focus a lot on something. And that's really important. So like learning how to focus is super, super important. And the way that you do that is not only doing the great activity that you're supposed to be doing, whether it be studying or reading or building courses or building videos or working out. Like you're working your way towards something. The smart people also understand and forecast all the things that are going to be coming down the pipeline that are going to try to detract you from that thing. So that's going to be every other thing we talked about: partying, substances, temptations, dating scene, like all this stuff can really get you off course. And another thing that can get you off course is having too many liabilities, like bills and car payments and debt and stupid things that just make you work really hard for no reason, when you have, like, let's say, a bigger goal at hand. So these are just some things that I realized when I had things that derailed me in the past. Like, it's almost always coming down to some of these things, right? But getting good sleep can fix a lot of things. And it can really make you think very clear the day later. As early as a day later, good sleep can really repair a lot of things quickly. So that's one thing. Well, that's another thing, should I say. I do think that with the advent of cell phones and inclement weather and all this kind of other stuff that's going on with the environment, people, and not to mention, like, they're more, at least here in Austin, Texas, there's a lot of indoor places to do cardio. This is like a catch-22 because, you're doing cardio. Well, a lot of times if it's indoor, it's just because you don't want to be outdoor, or if it's indoor, it's just because where the crowds of people are, for example, and people don't like to be alone, so they want to be around crowds. So like, okay, I get it. So then you're getting fit, you're indoors, but like my point is, you're not really outdoors a whole lot. And that's another thing that I see that has kind of greatly impacted people's physical fitness success, because usually when you're outdoors, you can work on cardio. And cardio is really important. Cardio is a workout for your heart. And if your heart's in good standing and it can pump blood to places of your body effectively, then you kind of win, right? So I don't think people should be doing LISS, low intensity, steady state cardio. I think that's kind of boring cardio. It's kind of stupid cardio. I think you should get to definitely, zone 2 cardio where you can barely have a conversation with the person next to you for bouts of time, should I say. So, going for like bursts of a minute or two, and then pulling back, and another burst and pulling back. And that's a lot of times what F45s and Orange Theories do, and those kind of things. They put you in a certain zone, and they bring you out, they put you back in, bring you out. And it's all computerized. You got watches on you and all this electronic crap. Again, it's all indoors. It's kind of crazy. It's mind-blowing. I could never get addicted to something like that, just because why? When it's beautiful outside, okay, it's hot. Like, I get it. Then work on your electrolyte balance and fuel your body with the best, quality water and supplements, and get outdoors. Like, there's no excuses to be made. When it's like 25 degrees outside or 30 degrees outside, guess what? I'm in an 800 downfill jacket with a baklava on my face, and I'm still doing cardio outside. It's not that big of a deal. But people make it a very big deal, or, some people might put on too much makeup and then they don't want it to sweat off or anything like that. And this is just the wrong way to think about it, if you think about it. So that's another thing. I think there's an absence of being outside and an absence of cardio, although there is a turn now in the physical fitness kind of social scene where run clubs are getting really popular, at least here in Austin. I know Austin, Miami, like San Diego, LA, like these run clubs are getting really popular. And I'm glad for that. Getting people outdoors again and moving and a cardiac work and having a cardio workout is so important, no matter how you do it. But you can't obviously run indoors, which is great. So most times it's track running, or it's, a designated route with different different intervals, but different pace groups, This is just fantastic. Like, I hope the evolution of that goes into like trail running, and I hope eventually it goes to like mountain biking or something like that, because that's the most fun one to do. And that's the one that's the most dynamic. Obviously, you pay the highest cost when things go wrong with something like that, but it's the most dynamic, and it really pulls you in and out of those, heart rate intervals properly, I think. And that's why I like it so much. And it's very effective in burning fat, extremely effective burning fat, great cardio workout, an enormous scene of people doing it, but it's like not a mainstream fitness thing to do, but it is really popular, in a lot of towns. I hope it goes that direction. I really do, because that would be amazing. But yeah, so common pitfalls are sometimes things that you don't know, or maybe you're like oddly aware of them, but you don't know how to change, so you have to get around people that are good for you, so that way it can help your change. Remember that whole thing we talked about earlier about the 5 closest people to you are going to be the most important. Does not include the significant other that you pick. That's going to be humongous. That significant other is everything. That's going to affect so much of your life. So many of your life decisions, lifestyle decisions, how your physical fitness is going to pan out, what you might look like your aesthetic physique. I mean, it's so not contingent upon your partner, but it is a big deal. Your partner has to kind of be supportive or on that path, or very welcoming to that kind of stuff, because there's so much that goes with that. There's so much diet stuff and sleep tips, and you have to hone in on so many things to get there. We have a question in the feed right now. Would you consider burpees cardio? I mean, burpees are often found in HIIT workouts, and HIIT workouts are very effective forms of cardio. Like, it's often said that you could do 20 minutes of proper HIIT training and it would give you the same cardiac workout as like an hour of running, right? So to answer your question, if you just did burpees for 20 minutes, then yeah, but nobody does that. But burpees are a form of exercise that is full body. It crosses 2 planes of movement, up, down, forward, back. Yep. So like it's crossing 2 planes of movement, and then it's pretty dynamic, and it's a full body kind of movement. And because of that, it's one of the ones that most people hate because it's not that it's hard to do. It's just that a lot of times when people are doing burpees, it's a timed thing, or it's a number thing. Like, you do it for 45 seconds or you do 30 in like a minute, for example. So yeah, they're not the most fun thing. I think that I don't know if there's anything more effective than HIIT workouts, to be honest, at 20 to 25 minutes of HIIT workouts. They usually keep you in one kind of designated area, whether you're doing box jumps or plyometric this or that, or doing sprints back and forth, or side-to-side jumps, or 180 hops. Like, it's all the same stuff. Medicine ball throws up, down, like, just so many things. So they're very effective. And a lot of times it can be done outdoors, which is great. So that's another bonus. I think it's a harder type of workout to do by yourself, because it's just hard to do it. Usually you have to go do those things in groups to kind of get motivated to do them. I still think that if it comes down to time, then it's very smart. If it comes down to anything outside of that, if time is not an issue, I think people should do more dynamic forms of cardio, personally. And so that can be sprinting, that can be, skateboarding, longboarding, surfing, snowboarding, wake surfing is not really that great, but mountain biking, cycling, triathlon stuff, things like that. I mean, those are definitely more of where now your body's running 3 planes of motion. The heart rate's very undulating and it's dynamic, and you could get hurt. Like, that's important, because when you're in those kind of states of I could get hurt, I have to pay attention. This is oftentimes where people get what's called flow state. This is where 2 brain waves, I think it's alpha and theta, they tend to fire harder during those flow movements only, or flow states only. And the incidence of having alpha and theta brainwaves firing leads to the most purest form of happiness that you can get. So this is the reason why people that are in flow are oftentimes snowboarders, skiers, surfers, and mountain bikers. Because if they take their mind off of the activity for even a split second, it could cost them their life, or it could lead to a giant injury or something like that. So it means you have to be very, very focused on the present moment and reading the entire situation ahead of you, whatever Mother Nature gives you. And you are not thinking about bills and car payments and, what am I going to decorate the house with? Or you're not wondering about sex and food and water and shelter. You're not thinking about any of that stuff. You're thinking about this thing, like moving your body through space and time safely, yet kind of on the razor's edge, if that makes sense. So, yeah, a lot of times when people talk about flow state, this term called time dilation, you'll see it in a lot of research. And it's where people don't realize that time flies by as it did. They're like, time doesn't seem to exist because whatever you're doing seems so fun. And it seems so fun because you are feeling extreme levels of happiness. So it's really cool. I think people, will go to the ends of the earth, to like the Amazon jungle, to like get the extract of a frog and, get a shaman and take ayahuasca. They'll do all this stuff to get pure forms of happiness. And I do think it's a little bit simpler than that sometimes. I think that happiness can be found every single day, but you have to know how to get there. And there are other forms to get you there too, into flow state. There's some breathing exercises that you can do. But a lot of times when you think about it, you have to get to those others. You have to get into an activity that is doing that to you. And so this is the reason why I think more people need to be doing that. If I lived on a coastline, I often say, if I lived on a coastline, I would surf every single day. Irregardless of whatever I see the water doing, I would find some break close to wherever I live, and I would surf something, no matter how small or how high that thing is. Or if there was no waves that day, I'd get myself a freaking kite and I would learn how to kite surf. I would just, I would figure it out. But yeah, you moving through space and time in a manner that would indicate some sort of flow, or where you have to concentrate a whole lot, then that would be important. They say that chess players, for example, or people that code things, like code a big project, can get into flow as well. So that's interesting when you look at the research. It's not necessarily these multiplanar type movements, surfing, skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing, mountain biking. It's not necessarily that. It could also be chess playing and certain other activities, like building a big project and being part of like the coding process. It's odd as hell if you look at the actual research. They are trying to sway some of when people talk about flow state, and some of the recent podcasts I've listened to on some of it, I've already known about flow state forever. And it's for another show, but I can tell you how I was doing flow state even when I was in my teenage years. But, they're trying to adapt it now to where you can get in the flow state with like some of these basic things to do, like doing certain goals and whatever. But at the end of the day, I do think it does mostly involve movement, to be honest. So, yeah, there was one time in California, I must have been 15, maybe 14, but there was one time I was bodyboarding. It's not surfing and it's not body surfing. It's the thing in between where you have 2 flippers and you have a bodyboard. And it was just an unbelievable day. There are 2 times I remember distinctly. One day was so big that there was it was so big and so dangerous. It was not, it was pretty much code red. Like, basically, if you go in the water, you might die. Like, it was one of those kind of days. And I remember distinctly because there were ambulances parked up on the seawall of Del Mar where I was doing this thing, and there were just rows of ambulances, right, just picking up people that were not being rescued in time, and some people were dying. And I remember being in that water. I remember being in the water for 6 hours that day, and I caught 4 waves in 6 hours. It was that dangerous. I remember being so far out and just like seeing these sets of monsters coming through that at that time felt like 2-story things with enormous amounts of whitewash. And it's like you had to pick just perfectly with like the entry, the exit, which wave it was going to be. Not to mention there could be a rogue wave coming from nowhere, somewhere far out, and you're like, oh my God, and now you're racing to try to get over that. So I remember 6 hours and I caught 4 waves. And then it dawned on me how kind of bizarre that was later in the day. And when I was out of the water, I was like, man, like I spent so much time, but I only got 4 waves. And I was like, but that was like the raddest wave of all time. Like, it was so fun. And that last one that you take all the way to shore, you look back and you're like, geez, there's like nobody out there. Then you see the ambulances and you're like, holy crap, like that was a dangerous day. That is just something I remember. Then I also remember being in the water for 7 hours, getting like hundreds of waves one day. That wasn't a code red day. It was just a normal day with just really good glassy conditions. In the same beach, I think it was Del Mar as well, bodyboarding with my friend at the time. And yeah, 7 hours getting absolutely hammered by the sun, but you didn't care. Like there was just 7 hours of catching waves after waves after waves after waves after waves. It was just like, didn't care about food, nothing. You didn't care about anything. 7 hours in the water. So, but yeah, that was not uncommon when I was younger, because I spent a lot of summers in the West Coast of California. So that was my first real introduction to like what flow state really was. And then when I discovered mountain biking, because now I was more inland in Austin, Texas, for example, there was no beach, and so then I found the other activity that was kind of like flow statey, and that was that. And wakeboarding too. Wakeboarding is a pretty big one where things go wrong. It's usually catastrophic, So yeah, it's an interesting kind of feeling. And I think that unless you've done it, you wouldn't really know. And that's not to like hang myself above people by any means, but I will say it like this. There was a saying for a surfing brand called Billabong. It's still out now, obviously. Quicksilver, Billabong, Rusty, Rip Curl, Hurley. Like these are all kind of like surfing brands. But Billabong had a saying back in the early 90s, and I think it still stays with like some of their shirts. And the saying is, only a surfer knows the feeling, is what it says, right? And I do believe that saying is their way of saying like the flow state is real. It's a real palpable thing, and only a surfer knows the feeling. And having done surfing after being a bodyboarder, I understood it very well. And I was like, oh yeah, I surf now. Like, I can bodyboard better than a lot of people. And like, I just know that feeling. And I'm like, yeah, that's with surfing too, 100%. You can spend hours out there just chasing waves and like gunning against the locals and like reading like what Mother Nature gives you. And like, you place yourself perfectly in the lineup to get the wave, and then you stand up before anyone else does. And that is just such this thing. Then you surf this body of water that is like ramped up, that has probably come from 500 to 1,000 miles away. It could be part of a swell for all you know. And it's like this unique thing, this fingerprint that has come across the ocean. And you stand up and you ride this thing for not very long, 10 or 20 seconds. And then you get spat out, and it gives you this certain amount of experience. And then you're like, whoa, like for me to get to that experience, there's so much going on, and you cannot think of anything else but all the pieces that came together to give you that experience. And it's like, it's unique. It's like a fingerprint. It's so unique. And when we go back to that term, only a surfer knows a feeling, I start to really realize like, yeah, that means something. And that means something a little bit more scientific than what they're talking about. It does mean that it's a very pure form of happiness. It is, to me, like the ultimate drug, like the ultimate drug. I remember telling one of my friends back in the day when we were traders, I was a stock trader for a little bit, only for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And one of my friends, he was a really good wakeboarder, not so much a mountain biker or whatever. He'd made some good money in the stock market. He was kind of looking around for houses and stuff, like different properties, because he had a good property in Austin, but he was like looking for other places to live, right? And obviously Hawaii came up because, if you got money and you're good with finances, which he was, then you would look at Hawaii. Anybody would. Like, It's closer to the mainland of USA. He's like, obviously he had parents and family here, both sides, him and his wife. So they couldn't go somewhere terribly far, but they had to be somewhere like amazing that rewarded him for the hard work that he had done being a stock trader. And he had done, like I said, he had done very well. And so I remember him, and we were trading next to each other, and he was like, yeah, you know, we were looking at Hawaii, you know? And I was like, oh my God, I was so jealous. You know, I'm so jealous because the most amazing activity I've ever done in my life outside of mountain biking is surfing. And if I could live in Hawaii, it would be paradise, and I would surf every single day. And what's interesting is that now he lives on like a really amazing shore of Maui, and he surfs every single day. And he's like, he's the best thing ever. He's like introduced it to his kids and his wife, and you know, they're living normally, like they're not living like this rich life or anything like that, but they have a nice property, but they're not living extravagant rich life. They got a Prius with surf racks on top. You know, they live within their means, but it's like, I knew it. And I told him, and he did it. And he's like, yeah, you were totally right. When I visited him one time years later, he was like, you're totally right. He's like, it's absolutely the best thing to do. This is the best thing. There's nothing else after this, after life. He had the kids, he had the wife, he had the property in Hawaii. He's like, there's no more. Like, this is it. This is what life is. And when I check back with him or I see him on Instagram, the life hasn't changed at all from there. It's the same. It hasn't gone to like a yacht in Monaco or like, let me get a Bugatti. Like, it's not any of that. It literally, that's the peak. That was the apex of where it is, because that is true happiness. Like that's it. Like, and I think that's pretty cool. I'm glad that I know somebody that has like achieved that. There are a lot of people that I know that have extreme amounts of like money, but they're just so poor inside, you know? But this guy is rich inside and he's pretty rich outside. And I think that's the ultimate wealth. The ultimate wealth is the fact that he can move without pain. You know, he's well within his BMI. He's got a wife. He's got kids, good property. He lives in Hawaii, surfing every day, finding like natural happiness every day, not chasing stupid drugs or substances. I don't even think he drinks. Like, he's in a town that everything goes to sleep around 7 or 8 o'clock. I mean, it's just like, it's the most amazing thing. So this is where we're going to cap off the video. I know I go on a rant and a tangent, but I try to leave these purposefully put gold nuggets here in these shows to have people think like, oh, you know, like maybe I should try that out. For example, I know in Austin, at least in the fall, I'm going to be trying to host a couple mountain biking, like trail sessions for people that are total beginners. Like one of them is going to go down this weekend with one of my friends. So I hope to bring that in fall and, you know, have like a pack of 3 or 4 extra bikes that people can ride on, and then show people like the value of that kind of stuff. So at least here, you know, if you're landlocked in Austin, Texas, and, you know, I used to have a boat and everything, which is cool. I used to have 2 boats, and getting to the lake and going wake surfing and going wakeboarding is great if you have the boat. If you're just renting boats and you're on other people's boats, it's not exactly that fun. It's hard to progress. And not to mention, most people that get boats, they just want to party and drink alcohol all day. They usually never want to like do the fun stuff. So, but I used to have boats, and I would never, it's not that I would never drink, but that wasn't the main goal of getting the boat. The reason why I got the boats was to have my control on the wake. Like, I wanted to make sure that the wake was dialed in like perfect, where I could like, you know, do tricks and whatever I needed to do, or wake surf. And it was like the same wake all the time, predictable. That way I could actually like build my skill up. Nowadays, I might get a boat maybe next year or the year after. I don't know, maybe, but there's just so much prep to getting to that fun activity. And there's a lot that can go wrong in between, you know, trailer issues, like there could be gas issues, boat issues. There's just a lot that comes with it. With mountain biking, it's a little different. I think it's fun just the same with surfing. Surfing is like a board, a leash. As long as you have transportation to the beach, or maybe you just put it on the side of a bike and you get it there, like now you can have said happy activity like really, really, really quick. And the same goes for mountain biking. Mountain biking, like my bikes are dialed in, they're ready to go. They're all inflated. Everything's ready. I kind of top off certain things like the morning of. It goes on the back of my SUV, and I'm like trail riding with all my homies, and it's like super fun immediately. The second we start pedaling, boom, the feeling is like starting to happen. So that's why I like it so much. So my advice is, if you're trying to dabble into this kind of stuff and you don't live on a coastline, for example, if you live on a coastline, go get surfing lessons and like try that out. Just trust me, it's like super fun. But if you don't, and you're landlocked, kind of like here in Austin, Texas, and you don't have a boat that you can hit a switch and it's like immediately on the water and the ballast tanks are full and like it's your boat, then I would definitely check out mountain biking for sure, 100%. Or maybe do the run club thing like everyone else is doing, but like still, the most that you'll get out of a running, you know, long distance kind of thing is an endorphin rush, which is cool. It's kind of flow statey a little bit, but when you run, it's not like you're going to get hurt. It's just one step in front of the other. It's kind of like delaying torture all the time. You're just like, oh, this sucks. And then miserably just sweating your ass off and getting torched by the sun. And, you could argue that that's not the greatest, but it's for some people. I get it. I'm not knocking it. It's just, I don't think it's truly what would give you like proper flow state. I used to be a runner too. I used to run back in the day, and it's not the same at all. But the mountain bike is fun, and I urge everybody that watches it up to this, if you've watched this show up until this far, give it a chance and check it out. You don't have to do half the crap that you see me doing or someone else. Like, even if you get to like 10% of that or a quarter of that, like, I think you would figure it out. I think you would go like, oh yeah, like 100%, like 100%. I showed mountain biking to one of my friends in the gym 2 years ago. One of my, she's a female friend, and she came up to me in the gym and she said, hey, I saw, you have a bike for sale on Facebook Marketplace. I flip bikes in the background, something I do just for whatever. I just do it. I'm good at it, whatever. And so she's like, I see you have a bike for sale. And I was like, oh, it's Chris, cool, from the gym. So then she's like, I was thinking about getting a mountain bike. And I was like, you should. And she's like, would that one be good? I was like, well, what's your budget? So I kind of walked her down this path of, you kind of want to get something that will help you get to that state appropriately, something you can grow into. So you want to kind of overshoot, because I was like, I'll help you out. I'll go to the trails with you and I'll do things with you and I'll walk you through the things and I'll teach you how to ride. And we did that. She showed up. I wouldn't even say weekend after weekend. There were sometimes we would ride 5 times a week, like day after day after day. She's like, this is so fun. Like, oh my gosh. And the next thing she knows, she was buying like gear and pads, and she wasn't showing up in Lululemon stuff anymore. She was like, that stuff is getting torn to pieces by the branches. Like, I need more resilient gear. And then she had a proper helmet, and then she would like redo her grips to like some colorful grips. And she's like really getting into it. But at the end of the day, if you have a patient person, like a good coach, like I was to her, I was bringing her in slowly to where she wasn't getting hurt a whole lot. And then there came a point where she was self-sufficient, and she was like, I love this. Like, this is the best sport. And I was actually training 2 of our other friends at the same time too. So they got fully into the sport too. They just got back from Angel Fire like yesterday, downhill park. And these are people that didn't know kind of a lick about mountain biking 2 years ago, but they, on a whim, they got the right material and they did it. And they're like, yeah, 100%. That is fun. Obviously, if you don't have a guide, they had like the added benefit of having a coach and a guide, which is cool because I know all the trails, I know most of everything. But even if you didn't, like I was self-taught, for example, but that took many years to get really good. But what gets you good is hanging around proficient people. But it's important. So, but now basically, like, she's inviting me to rides, and she rides more than I do, and the thing is kind of flip-flopped, and she's doing things, and I'm building her skills up where I can. But it's a lot of fun. And she's found a whole nother community of people that ride that she shares with me, which is a really, really good kind of great thing. It's like there is this secret community of people that are doing this one thing that provides an extreme amount of like happiness and confidence. And it's just so fun. And they are there. But if you didn't know, then you would never have an inkling of like, oh yeah, this is going on. But if you didn't know, in a dynamic city, it's pretty easy for something that's like that good to get drowned out. Because if everyone's doing one thing, like, oh, everyone's at brunch and everyone's doing the running club, and like everyone's after brunch, they're walking up and down South Congress and buying things from stupid stores. If that's the norm that then you wouldn't know anything outside of that. So I think it's important to explore more and to really find out what some of these natural forms of like being happy look like, and start pursuing those kind of things before the substances and before the things that, because those other substances it's a fleeting kind of thing. Like, it's a fleeting feeling. And then you're paying with your dopamine receptors are paying for like days afterwards. You feel terrible, unmotivated, like depressed. Everything just crumbles, because you went for this quick fix that didn't work out, as opposed to like actually getting something that's substantial that really mood boosts you for like days on end. Like, you can't wait to do it again. And then when you do it, it doesn't drain you. You're just left with these like incredible memories and pictures of like, yeah, that was so fun. I can't wait to do it again. And it didn't tax my body. I'm not like destroying my stuff inside. I have no gastric issues, when you ride mountain bikes, for example, as opposed to partying and drinking alcohol, doing drugs, going to brunches. Like, that stuff eventually leads to gastric issues and, just being inflamed all the time. So something to think about. not downplaying anybody's life or anything like that, but you know, I'm in a position now in my life where I've done a lot of things, and I've been down partying routes. I've been down, you know, hard drugs. I've been down so many different routes, and the one that has easily stuck out the best is, you know, working out's great, and then cardio, like outdoor cardio, the right style, serve you so well. It will not let you down. It's the best thing you can do. So I'll leave the show at that. Hopefully, if you got a, you know, a couple of nuggets from this one, and I tend to ramble sometimes, but it is my first show on YouTube in a while, at least here on the BODDAMN channel. Go check it. Then I hope you enjoyed it. Also, in the feed right now, there is a guide right there from my other company, My Radical Life, or Radical Life, should I say. And that guide is going to talk to you about 10 pitfalls that are sabotaging your fitness goals. You can go check it out right now. It's in the feed, and I put it right there. Outside of that, I'll make sure it's the first link down below when this thing is not a live video. And we'll hope to do another one of these soon. All right, take it easy. Goodbye.